You're watching Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. I got a little quiz to start today's show. Since we're talking about the draft, I want to know how much ball you know. Here's a trivia question for you. Who was Seattle's first-round pick in 1995? If you know the answer, go ahead and tell us in the comments section right now. If you don't, that's okay too. We'll have the answer for you coming up at the end of today's show. Let's get started here on Seahawks Today. The 2025 NFL Draft Scouting Combine is in the books. And on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, we're going to catch you up to speed on all of the combine meetings that we know of that happened for Seattle this past week in Indianapolis. To our knowledge, there was meetings with at least 20 prospects, and that's just of what has been said publicly. There's obviously more meetings that could have happened, potentially speaking, but this is what we can confirm according to our sources and players that have spoken forward. So let's go ahead and go over that full list of names for you. Starting with Jaxson Dart, quarterback from Mississippi. Most people are regarding him as the number 3 quarterback in this year's draft behind Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And after a good Senior Bowl week, his stock is starting to rise. And there are conversations about him potentially being taken in the first round. We'll talk more about Jaxson Dart coming up later on. Cobee Bryant, one of my favorite players in this draft, not just because he played for my school, the University of Kansas, but he is a great athlete. He's a great teammate, and I think he's a sneaky good find in this draft. I think he's got potential, even though he'll likely be a day 3 pick, to be a day 1 starter in the National Football League. Also on the list includes Nick Emmanwori, the safety from South Carolina. He had a very good week at the NFL Draft Scouting Combine. There's a lot more attention being directed his way. At tight end, Terrance Ferguson, not the former Oklahoma City Thunder draft pick Terrance Ferguson. No, we're talking about the tight end from Oregon who had a pretty decent campaign with the Oregon Ducks this year as they won the Big Ten Conference and went on to play for the Rose Bowl this past season. Jalin Conyers, another tight end, this one from Texas Tech. He also made the interview list, as did Quincy Riley, a defensive back from Louisville. Remains to be seen if he's going to be a corner or a safety at the next level. We shall see. Also on the list is Azareye'h Thomas, the corner from Florida State. And another guy we've spent a lot of time about here on this program, Armand Membou, the offensive tackle from Missouri. Some people think that he's going to play guard at the next level. He has seen his stock rise. He's expected to be a first-round pick and could be interesting for Seattle with some positional flexibility there. Donovan Jaxson from The Ohio State. I got the chance to personally meet Donovan Jaxson at the Cotton Bowl back in January, and I was very impressed with Donovan Jaxson, a very good leader, and he's another one that they're not so sure. Is he a guard or is he a tackle at the next level? Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU, we'll have more on him coming up later in the show. Will Campbell is a guy that is very intriguing to me. Some people think he's the best offensive lineman in this year's draft. He certainly looks the part, and I think that this is a guy that I would be surprised is available when Seattle picks, but if he is, it'd be hard to pass up on him if he is there. Also on the list, another guy that's seen his stock rise is North Dakota State offensive lineman Gray Zabel, who played at the FCS level. It'll be a big transition, of course, going from that to the NFL. Clay Webb, offensive guard from Jacksonville State, also on this list. And Big Jonah with the hair from Arizona. He's another one at the offensive guard spot. A lot of people talking about him. Jalen Rivers, the offensive tackle / offensive guard from Miami. And Tate Ratledge, the offensive guard from Georgia. He confirmed his meeting in his interview on Saturday at the Combine. And then a few more names. They include Jared Wilson, the center from Georgia. Cameron Williams, offensive tackle from Texas. Tyler Booker, offensive guard from Alabama. A lot of people are projecting Booker to Seattle at 18. And Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, the offensive tackle from Florida, as well as Jalin Noel, the wide receiver from Iowa State, who had a big season this past year, helping lead the Iowa State Cyclones to the Big 12 championship game, had over 1,000 yards receiving in a very prolific offense there in Ames. A lot of players I like among the 20 that we know about. But the big thing for me that stands out just looking across the board of what Seattle did this past week was the emphasis on the offensive line. By far and away, the majority of players they met with were offensive linemen. And it is clear that John and Mike and company, they are doing their homework when it comes to the offensive line and trying to find offensive line help. And what have we talked about a lot this offseason? The number one priority is fixing the offensive line and giving Geno Smith proper protection. And based on what we're seeing here, Seattle is putting their focus there, making that the priority to fix this offensive line and doing what they can to figure out the best offensive line to help that situation. So let's put you on the clock now. Who should the Hawks draft in the first round? If you had to choose one name, who would it be and why? Weigh in our pinned comment today. Let us know who you think that first-round pick should be for the Hawks. Today's show is sponsored by Tushy. I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Tushy, and you will be too, folks. March Madness is a sacred time of yelling at the TV while recovering from elective surgery. If you, like thousands of other men, are overlapping a vasectomy recovery with nonstop basketball, get a bidet. You're going to need a gentle touch in the bathroom. It's almost time to do my favorite dance of putting away the snowblower and getting out the lawnmower, only for it to dump a fresh 8 inches. While I wait for the weather to not cut my face, I'm going to be spring clean my life, starting in the bathroom. Listen, that extra hour of daylight is so good for the mental health, but so hard on the morning routine. If you, like me, take 20 minutes to do your business on the toilet at the best of times, you need to get a bidet. Tushy helps me elevate comfort in the bathroom while getting me out the door sooner. Aura is Tushy's brand new electric bidet with an auto open lid and seat, instant warm water that never runs cold, and UV sterilation for next level hygiene. Aura by Tushy easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. Reclaim your comfort zone in the bathroom for a limited time. Our listeners get 10% off their bidet order when you use code CHATSPORTS. Check out, that's 10% off your bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code CHATSPORTS. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Maybe you're like me. I'll be honest, I've been constipated for about 3 days, haven't been able to take a poop, but eventually when I do, I'm going to be very glad that I had Tushy to help clean out my problem there. So check it out. Link is in the comments and description of today's video. Tushy, proud partner of Seahawks Today. All right, let's talk about Jaxson Dart. Let's begin with him. He began his career with USC. Lincoln Riley comes in, and he brings Caleb Williams with him. So Jaxson Dart decided to move on to Ole Miss and join Lane Kiffin, and he had the best season of his career this past year with Ole Miss. He was a first-team All-SEC selection. He also was awarded the Connerly Trophy this past year. When it comes to Jaxson Dart, here's my big issue, all right? This Ole Miss team this year and last year had high hopes and expectations. They thought that they were going to be a contender for the SEC. They thought they had a realistic shot to make the college football playoff each of the last 2 seasons. And they came up short of expectations. And they lost games they should not have lost to teams like Florida and among others, while still able to beat teams like Georgia. And the thing for me was that they came up short and lost games they shouldn't have had, and Jaxson Dart was a big reason why. You can't blame everything on him, but he, I think, is at blame for Ole Miss's shortcomings of why they couldn't get it done and couldn't get over the hump. So although he looks the part and the numbers that we show you look pretty good, I look at the eye test and I see a guy that couldn't get the job done when it mattered. And to me, that's very worrisome for a guy that wants to be a franchise quarterback at the next level. His scouting report, he's got good touch and velocity. He's a functional athlete, a good play extender. He throws on the move. He's got a snappy release. But here's the big red flag of it all, folks. He has a slower mental process. That's not great when you had to make quick decisions in this league, and especially with Seattle's concerns on the offensive line. I can't have a quarterback taking his time to think back there. So, Jaxson Dart, I know there's more talk about him being the 18th overall pick for Seattle. I don't feel great about that. Should the Hawks draft Jaxson Dart? You got two options here. Type D for draft, P for pass. Way in the comments section. Let us know if you draft Jaxson Dart or not. Let's talk Will Campbell now. Played for the LSU Tigers from 2022 to 2024. He was the Jacobs Blocking Trophy Award winner this past season, a consensus All-American, a two-time first-team All-SEC selection, and there's talk of him playing tackle or guard, either one at the next level, which is good for Seattle. As we've said time and time again over the last few weeks, what you're looking to do with this offensive line is you need athletes. You just need to assemble the best five on this offensive line and find spots for them. So Will Campbell, I would think, would be a guy that you can find a spot for, who's, I think, the best lineman in this draft. And I would be surprised if he's available at 18, but if he is, by all means, you would be thrilled. You would be running to the podium to hand the card to Roger Goodell to announce that Will Campbell is going to be your pick. The grades don't really do Will Campbell justice for how good he was either as well. Overall grade of 70.8. Pass block grade, very strong, 80.9. Run block grade of 67.1. But the scouting report, that's where it gets fun when it comes to Will Campbell. Excellent balance, especially for a big fella, too. You'll love hearing that. Very good play strength. He did a good job navigating double teams as well. He took on those double teams and was able to find ways to work around them very impressively. He's got renowned leadership skills. This is the type of guy, folks, that you want your daughter to marry. I mean, he is just a gentleman of a human being. Now, he does have mediocre arm length, though. And that's why there's potential talk of him potentially playing guard as opposed to playing the tackle position. So, with that said, I don't think Will Campbell is going to be available at 18. If you want him, you might have to trade up to get him. Would you be willing to trade up for Will Campbell? If you're John Schneider, would you trade up to get him? Got two options here. Type Y for yes and for no. Chime in. Let us know what you would do. Let's talk Tyler Booker now. And Tyler Booker played for Bama the last 3 seasons. First-team All-American selection. Two-time first-team All-SEC choice in 2023 and in 2024. He is, in my opinion, the best pure guard in this draft. Obviously, we've talked about guys like Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks and others that might move, might transition, not that type of transition, from tackle to guard. But as far as guys that it's their natural position, Tyler Booker is just that. And he's seen his stock rise, and I think it's realistic for him to come in and start day one at the left guard spot for Seattle. I don't think Laken Tomlinson's coming back. I think if you draft Tyler Booker, your realistic expectation is we just found our starting left guard and roll with that from there. Pass block grade was fantastic. 86.5 was the grade that he had pass blocking wise. Run blocking could use some work. 63.9. Didn't allow any sacks. Did get called for 7 penalties. Overall grade of 66.5 there. Massive, dense build. He does show some burst on pulls, which, I mean, is a game changer when you got some guards that can move like that. He's got good pad level, low man wins, square power, delivers body blows, and he does have some mediocre foot quickness. So he shows burst on the pulls, but the quickness initially out of the gate isn't always that great. If you had to pick a lineman, which one of these two would you choose from? Would you rather have Will Campbell or Tyler Booker? Type WC for Will Campbell, type TB for Tyler Booker. Let us know. All right, the guy I'm most excited to talk about today, Cobee Bryant from the University of Kansas. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. Played for KU from 2021 to 2024. He was named a second-team All-American selection this past season. And I think a lot of it had to do with the bias that the mainstream media has against the Kansas Jayhawks. They looked at this Kansas team and said, hey, they only won 5 games this year. He played in the Big 12, didn't play in the SEC or the Big 10. Had he played at a bigger program, he, I think, would have been a first-team All-American selection. 3-time first-team All-Big 12 performer. And I got to say, I've watched almost every game of Cobee Bryant's career. I've had some chats with his dad via direct message before. And, I mean, comes from a good family. His dad and I had a back and forth about him wearing the number 2 because I said that, hey, if your name's Cobee Bryant, because he actually goes by Cobee now. He didn't always go by that. Then he should wear 8 or 24. And his dad got in my DMs. It's like, well, I like the number 2. And so, like, it was all lighthearted. It was all fun. But the thing I've seen from him, watching him over the years, is he's got that alpha dog in him, which you look at these corners across the NFL, college football, high school, and all levels. You got a lot of these corners that are soft, that don't like to be aggressive, that don't like to tackle. That's not the case with Cobee Bryant. And I'm going to put my name on this. Put your name on it. He is going to be a success in the National Football League. I am that confident in Cobee Bryant. His statistics, very good. 4 interceptions each of the last 2 seasons, 3 interceptions in 2022. I mean, he's a turnover machine. He does it all. And he's also great in coverage, too. Allowed a QB rating of just 62.7, 11 pass breakups, only 2 touchdowns allowed this year. And teams were still throwing his direction because his opposite corner, Mello Dotson, who's also going to be picked, was very good. You had to pick your poison. And so for him to have those statistics allowed, even when they were still having to throw his direction, I thought was very good. He's a long-arm corner. He displays athleticism and ball skills. He's got the ball hawk tendencies you're looking for. He's a willing tackler. All right? I honestly think that he could come in and challenge Rick Woolen with that alone. The fact that he can create turnovers and he's willing to tackle, which we can't always say about Rick Woolen. Does have some questionable top-end speed, but overall, I like Cobee Bryant a lot. I think he's going to be a steal for whoever picks him in this draft. Before we go, as promised, our trivia question. Who was the Seahawks' first-round pick in 1995? If you guessed Joey Galloway, that's my JoJo, you'd be right. He was the pick for Seattle. Now he's delivering awful college football takes on ESPN. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. For continuing draft and offseason coverage, subscribe now for free. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.